Thanks, Jane. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Luna. I'm the graduate admission coordinator here at Salem State. I'm also a Salem State alumni, graduated 2023. And I help with graduate students about planning and also Spanish translation. And I'm going to pass it over to one of our students, Delaney Phelps.
Hi, everyone. My name is Delaney Phelps. My pronouns are she, her. I am currently a second-year student in our MS in Industrial Organizational Psychology program. And I'm originally from out of state. I'm from Florida. I got my undergraduate degrees from the University of Florida in psychology and family, youth, and community sciences. And a fun fact about me is that I can play the flute. I'll pass it over to my colleague and peer, Jeremy.
Thank you, Delaney. Hi, my name is Jeremy. I'm a master's in social work students. I'm actually just finishing my first year, which I'm excited about. And I did my undergrad here as well in psychology with a concentration in behavioral analysis and a minor in education. And I guess the fun fact is that this is my second career. I spent about 20 years working in management before making the decision to go back to school. And with a little layoff, I was given the door to come in and start doing my undergrad and grad school. And I will pass it over to Becky Jo.
Thank you, Jeremy. My name is Becky Jo Rowland. I am an MA/MAT English student. I am in my third and final year. This is my final semester. I also graduated my undergrad at Salem State, theater BFA, dance BA in 2019. And this is kind of my second career as well. I've been here for a number of years working, but fun fact, theater and English teaching are kind of my side gig. And I'm passing it back to June, I think.
Thank you. So we do have some frequently asked questions that we've prepared to kind of get the panel started and the conversation going. But please feel free to put in the chat any questions you might have, or you can raise your hand if you'd prefer to verbally ask a question. So we're going to go ahead and just pop right in to the questions. But before we pop into the questions, I'm just going to hand it off to Elaine to go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elaine Concepcion, and I am a first semester MBA student. I did my undergrad at Salem State University as well. And a fun fact about me is that I did a poem on 9/11, and it was published when I was in 8th grade.
Thank you, Elaine. So popping in right into that first question, what was it like going right from undergrad to grad or taking time between undergrad and grad? What to you was the difference between the undergrad and graduate experience? I think I'll go ahead and hand it off to Delaney to kind of talk about her experience first.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, June. So I went straight from undergrad to grad school. I had your stereotypical traditional student experience. I had 4 years of undergrad, and then I had a 2 years master program that I went straight through. So the only time I had off was just the summer between graduating undergrad and starting my master's program in September. I would say there's both pros and cons to it. I felt like when I jumped right in, it wasn't as daunting. I was really familiar with, reading academic journals, writing. I didn't really have to get back into the swing of things any more than like a normal summer break. I still had all of, my backpack and all of my notebooks and papers and everything that I still needed. And so none of that was a big change and shift for me. Um, I would say one thing is it gets pretty exhausting going straight through. I remember finishing undergrad, being, obviously so happy to graduate. And then, I wanted to do my graduate program, but I mean, now after 2 years, I am definitely ready to be done. even though as much as I love my program, as much as I love school and learning, it's a lot to go straight through. You're in school all the way into your early 20s. Sometimes, you might need a break depending on where you are. So I would say, well, it's definitely helpful transitioning, especially if you're in a writing heavy type of type of program. It can also be a lot. So, think about, where you are and whether you're ready to take on that additional years of schooling.
Go ahead and jump in. I took about 6 to 8 months away after I graduated my undergrad. And Delaney's definitely right. It is much easier to, in terms of like scheduling your life and planning things out, dip right into that graduate sphere. But yeah, I took advantage of the time online that the pandemic offered. I was not planning originally to go back to school immediately. I was planning to take a far longer period of time, and I'm actually quite grateful that I just jumped right into it so that I didn't have to get back into a routine after a while of being away from school.
I can actually jump in because I took a lot longer time off. So I took about 7 years between my undergrad to now starting again as a graduate student. And I think for me, one of the biggest reasons was I really ultimately did not know what I wanted to get my master's degree in. And I felt like it would have been unwise to just jump into something and potentially just throw money away, because what if I did not enjoy that, or what if that's not the path that I wanted to do? So I think for me, it actually really helped that I took that time in between, because I also got to jump into the professional world right away and gain skills and experience and learn a little bit of more about myself and what I would ultimately like to do. So in that sense, I feel like jumping in now as a graduate student, I'm a little bit more well-rounded and have taken that time to really kind of take a look at myself. What are the options? What I would like to ultimately do. However, the caveat to that is that I have been out of school for 7 years. So especially jumping into something like an MBA program, while challenging, it is a little bit rewarding. But I definitely feel like one of the things, if you're in that like that spot right now where you're considering, I just finished, do I want to hop right in, or do I want to take some time? I think really look at what you want to get out of the program, what you want to get out of your graduate studies, and see if right now you are well aligned with that. I think that's one of the things that I would say in making that decision.
Thank you. So the next question we have is, what was the final determining factor for you to make the final decision to earn your graduate degree? Elaine, I know you kind of touched upon that, so maybe we could hear from Jeremy, if you want to share what your experience was.
Sure. So like others have said, I actually went right from undergrad to grad school. While I was doing my undergrad, my therapist actually told me to go for the Master's in Social Work program because it was, for him, the most direct path to to become a therapist, but also it gave him the ability to work in any field he wanted to. And within the realm of working with it in the service field, and I didn't listen to him. Like many people don't listen to what they're told is good advice. And unfortunately, I went down a path. I learned a lot from my undergrad, but I probably would have had a more straightforward path if I had got my BSW, because I could have gone directly into a 4+1 for the MSW and done it in 1 year. Now I'm doing it in 2 years. My decision came, I was listening to a teacher speak about her job, and I heard a lot of things I didn't like. And so I made the decision to choose social work at that point. But the decision it was easy. I took 20 years off of school, and it was that idea of if I stop now, not coming back. The reason I didn't start earlier was because I was making money, and it is really difficult to walk away from money to go do something that you really need to do, right? Or that I really want to do. So that took a long time, and then somebody laid me off, and I was like, all right, great, I have an opportunity now to jump right into it.
Thank you for sharing. Delaney or Becky Joe, do you have anything to add? I know you guys took a little bit of a shorter period between your undergrad and grad. What kind of made you decide to go into the graduate degree that you did choose?
Yeah, for sure. I chose my program based on the convenience and cost of Salem State. So because I work specifically in a specialized field of theater, a lot of the time teaching programs for really specific fields are far and above uh, where a teacher can actually pay for school. They cost far more. There's actually only two theater teaching programs in the state, and I knew from going to Salem State for my undergrad that I could kind of curtail my program by being in it. So choosing English as a secondary option to theater, and then being able to get to my final semester and choose to study specifically theater within that English realm was really great. So I chose my program kind of based off of this need and necessity, but then knowing that Salem State would kind of help me customize what I wanted to do the further along I got in the journey was the reason why I ended up here in my program.
Thank you. So next question, how do you balance the workload of graduate school with between classes, personal life, professional work? How do you balance that workload? Maybe Delaney can touch upon this. I know you're about to graduate from the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, June. So the things that I have going on, I'm doing the program full time, so typically that's 3 classes per semester. I've also been the first year I worked part-time in the admissions office, between about 10 and 20 hours a week. The second year I picked up more hours and was working about 30 or more hours a week. Um, so I was balancing that, and then also life. Again, I moved from out of state, so I was trying to adjust to living here, figuring that out. Luckily I don't have a family I'm taking care of personally. I do have my cat, so I do have to take care of her. But I would say a major thing is making sure that you have everything figured out in terms of what you need to do and figure out what you need to, the steps to accomplish it. So say you're given an assignment, it's not just about like the due date. It's about all the steps leading up to it. Same with work. It's like, you want to make sure that it's not just about a final product or a final thing you have to do, because there's a lot of steps leading up to it. So you want to give yourself those touch points leading up to things to make sure that you're giving yourself time, because otherwise, you're gonna hit this point where you're just overwhelmed with a lot of work. And it just becomes too much because, you might be able to think, oh yeah, I can finish a paper in a day, but then you forget, oh, well, I also had to finish all of the work that I didn't finish this week, and then also have to go grocery shopping because I don't have food in the house, and so on and so forth. So I'd say the biggest thing is planning out. A lot of people will use calendars, practically religiously, or planners. And personally, I'm not a big like planner calendar person, but if even if you're not, even just giving yourself general time points. So saying, okay, within these 2 days, I'm going to do this. Or, within this week, I'm going to get this done. Even if you're not like, scheduling out specific blocks of time. So I would say that's the biggest thing. And also know when to say no to taking on more responsibilities. It's really easy to say, oh yeah, I'll take on this project at work or school or with my friends or things like that. But understand that you have limits. There's only so much time in the day, and you do need sleep. So definitely understand that it's okay to say no and say maybe next time. It's not being rude. It's not saying that, you can't handle things. It's just saying, you're a human and you have limitations. So I'd say that's my biggest point.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to add anything on? Beck, Joe, Jeremy, Elaine?
I'll jump
Um,
in. Oh, Elaine, you can go.
it's okay, Jeremy. You can go first.
I was just gonna say, I um I organize my time in I layer t tasks. So if I'm doing laundry, I put the laundry in and then I go and I might work out while the laundry's running to then go back and well, actually, who's kidding? I don't work out. I try to, it just doesn't happen anymore. But I layer a lot of my tasks. So if I'm driving home from my internship, I will stop at the grocery store and pick up groceries for the week. Right. If I am driving to my internship, which is about an hour drive, I'll put on one of the podcasts I have to listen to for class or an audiobook from one of the texts I have to read. So I'm trying to do a lot of the things I'm required to do while I'm doing other tasks that don't take mind power, so that I'm using my time wisely, because there's not a lot of extra time to do anything else.
For me, some of the things that I have done is kind of a lot of the things that have already been mentioned. So kind of taking a glance at what the semester is going to look like for your courses, and then mentally kind of preparing yourself of like, okay, this week there's going to be a lot of assignments done. So prepare to like start, kind of putting boundaries with like friends and family and anything like that. And then also just creating personal boundaries for myself in terms of like work as well. Like, okay, if I know that this week I have a lot of assignments, then I know that I am going to, like you said, not take on more work and finish by a clear cut time so that I have time to like work on my assignments as well. And one of the other things is like is having those conversations with your friends or family. Like, I can't go out and, have brunch with you or have lunch with you or dinner with you this weekend because I have two assignments to complete. And it can be a little hard, but at the same time, something that I've learned is that you have to make those sacrifices because at the end of the day, you want to finish, you want to graduate. This is for the betterment of yourself and your future. So, while hard, setting those boundaries has definitely helped me, and just taking a glance or a look and like planning your whole semester out of like, okay, these weeks, there's multiple assignments due this week, and leading up to it, I know that I can't do anything but focus on school. So that has helped me.
Couple final points that I was thinking about. Know when the waves, kind of like Elaine was saying, know when the waves of like heightened assignments are happening, um, by trying to align your syllabi. And also communication is key. Like professors really at the end of the day just want to know that you feel confident in the work that you're doing, especially at the graduate level. So if you feel that for you, you're not putting your best work forward and you need that time, these are graduate level professors. They're going to be very understanding if you have family stuff that's going on in the background, and kind of trying to prepare your life, I guess, around those syllabi that are aligning. So yes, during those heightened points, don't go out to dinner with the fam, but during those low points, like at the beginning of the semester when you're just being handed that syllabus on day one, sure, that may be a time that first week when you can be kind of aligning things slowly and organizing yourself slowly and still doing those social things and getting some other responsibilities lined up. Something that I do is meal planning. Getting that stuff set up and ready to go for the rest of the semester is super helpful. And I also recommend taking advantage of summer courses. That's the thing that has helped me immensely, knowing that during the school year, during my day job is far more intense. But during the summer, that's kind of a lighter load. So getting that graduate work done, especially when the sun is out until 8:30 at night, is far easier than when it's going down at 3:30 p.m.
Thank you for sharing. So many of our graduate programs do have an internship or a practicum component of it. Could you guys touch upon your experience, your personal experience with your internship or practicum? Jeremy, do you want to start us off talking about your placement for the MSW program?
Sure. So for me, when I came into this, I didn't really understand the whole internship aspect. I knew that I had to do 16 hours a week for my first year and 20 to 24 for my second year. But what I didn't know was that it was unpaid work. And that's really, that's a challenge. I have to pay for my apartment and for my cat's food and for my food and you name it. There's like a pile of bills. Um, and so how are you going to balance those two? What I did learn is that if I'm quick, I can get into a paid internship because those do exist out there. Um, for the social work, and I can't speak for any other program, I do know that if you work within the field, some places allow for paid internship through the organization you work at as well. And I didn't unfortunately get into one of those, but I got into I work at a inpatient hospital. They have a 3 to 5 day stay at the place for patients that have are in mental crisis or with substance use disorder, and for me, it's my stress reliever. As funny as that is to say out loud, it's a place I get to go away from school and work and gain experience in the job, in the field. And I treat it like volunteer work because it's the same, idea of it. And if I have that in my mind instead of, hey, I'm going to work, it's less of a impact when I'm not getting paid. My bonus of it, though, is that I'm getting hired by them as I complete my first year. And so that's a huge bonus with any internship is that a lot of the time they have available positions at the place that you're interning at, and it's a large a large population of people that do the internships get hired into those roles as well. So thank you.
Touch on this for my practicum experience this past fall for teaching. As Jeremy said, a lot of it is unpaid work. So I did mine unpaid, but I do know that the teaching programs at Salem State, there are fellowships that are offered for 3 years for students who are teaching in the field. And yes, a lot of the time doors open and opportunities arise while you're in the place where you are. At the graduate level at Salem State, a lot of the internships and field placements are choice-based instead of a student being placed in a specific area. We have 4+1 programs where a lot of the time the undergrads will take priority for being placed in a specific place. But I know for my field placement, I did have to find my own placement. And the school that I chose was happy to have me because I work there during off hours for the school year. So they were already familiar with who I was. So if you are really in it for your fields and you know of a place and already have a reputation and a standing and open communication with a place, I would push that even further if you're truly interested in committing to that field and that specific place that you already have a relationship with. But if you want to go and find new opportunities, there are definitely resources at Salem State to help you with that. Yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you. So another question we hear a lot is what campus resources are available to graduate students? Um, Delaney, do you want to go ahead and tell us what resources are available and maybe what your favorite resource on campus utilizes?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we really like to emphasize is that any campus resource or any activity, things like that, that are on Salem State campus that are available to undergraduate students are also available to graduate students. So if you are kind of looking online and you see a club or activity or some sort of student resource and you're like, oh, I wonder if that looks really interesting, it's also available to graduate students as well. One of the things that I personally have really enjoyed on campus is our taking advantage of our library resources. So being in the psychology program, we have to read a lot and write a lot, unfortunately. um, so unfortunately, a library can only physically hold so many books, right? But luckily, being in the Boston area, there are a lot of schools and a lot of libraries that are in the general vicinity. So our librarians are really great about helping you access books and journals and chapters and things like that that aren't necessarily physically available in our Salem State University library. So I've had a lot of times where I've been able to request things through interlibrary loan, and a lot of times I haven't even had to go and physically pick it up. They'll just send me an email with like a PDF of it, which has been really helpful. We also have subject librarians, so maybe you've been out of school for a while, or you just want some additional tips on how to do some research within your specific field. Our subject librarians specifically work with like our departments and things like that to help you do research in your specific field, identify certain journals and things like that that are really helpful for doing research. Um, but yeah, again, anything that's available to undergraduate students is also available to graduate students. So I don't know if anyone else has some favorite resources or things like that that they'd like to point out. I know some went to Salem State for undergrad, so maybe they have some more exciting resources than the library.
Um, I can speak. So, Delaney, you spoke about what my favorite resource is the library. My favorite place on campus is the library. So I really, really encourage students to utilize all the resources that are provided to you, and also utilize like the physical space as well. Like when you're studying and you have big important reports to do, like you could rent, not rent, is that what you call it? Like when the study rooms that you can rent like a study room for yourself. Those really helped me out during my undergrad. I have not utilized them yet as a graduate student, but they are available to you as well. The other piece that I really emphasize students use is the Writing Center. So in our Center for Academic Excellence, we have the Writing Center, and they are great there. They helped me with so many papers during my undergrad experience, and they really ensure that your paper is like written how it's supposed to be in the right format, and they read it for you. They help you edit it, and they help you multiple times. So like if you go the first time and they proofread, you make the changes, you want to come back, they do the same thing all over until your paper is like top notch. And I got a lot of good grades by receiving help from the Writing Center. So that's my second option as well.
Elaine stole mine. Um, I had a peer who came back after 10 or 15 years being out of school, and the Writing Center helped teach her how to write all over again, which was her biggest fear of coming back to school. The other is, and I was just talking to another potential student about this, is the Career Center. The Career Center will help you rewrite your resume and help you find a job and do interviewing, right, and prepare for interviews. And there's clothes there. If you're on campus, you can go in and get free clothes to help, go into an interview if so there's a lot of different options there. There's a gym. You get free access to a gym if you're an on-campus student. Through the gym, there are different programs as well, different classes. I believe there's yoga and there's a dietitian on campus. If you want somebody to walk through, healthy eating habits, There's a lot of different. Oh, there's counseling. You want a free counselor, a free therapist? They have that. So there's a lot of free options to students, and not all of them are utilized. There are outside of campus too, as a student, just to throw this out, because I know a lot of people don't learn this, you get discounts for everything. So if you look up student discounts online, you'll see like I get half off Spotify, half off Amazon Prime, and all of the web services out there. I have discounts on electricity and my internet bill, and there's a lot of different things that you can get through being a student.
Thank you. So another question a lot of students ask us is, how am I going to fund my graduate education? Jeremy, are you comfortable sharing how you financed your graduate education while also keeping your cats fed?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I guess the bonus of getting laid off was I got a package that helped me pay for school. Now, granted, it wasn't a lot of money, and I had to figure out how to make the small amount work for, and it's now 6 years that I've been in school straight. Um, I did. I just watched Josephine's eyes widen. So the bonus was, so I had, I think I've been full time for 4 years straight. I've used a bit of my savings. I've had part-time jobs that have paid and supplemented a lot of that. There are scholarships that you can apply for. There are the graduate assistantship program that gives you a stipend as well as tuition deductions that I have applied for and will start doing next September. There's a bunch of different options that are available to help individuals to pay for their, finance and pay for their education. I use financial aid and I get extra money. And a lot of people take that extra money and pay back their tuition. I don't. I keep that money and I use it to pay my rent and pay my, grocery bills, and many other bills because it's extra money. So I use everything that I can. I also decrease my budget by like a major chunk. I removed anything that I didn't absolutely need that wasn't a priority in my life. Because I realized this is a temporary thing. And when I start making money again, I can go and buy those things later. Right. So free gym, don't need to pay the Y for a gym, membership anymore. Right. There's a lot of different things. And books are usually you can get them for free online, or teachers have access to PDFs. And so there's different ways to finance your education, or get free access to a lot of stuff. Public libraries also have a lot of your textbooks for free.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is anyone else comfortable talking about how they finance their?
Well, I've only been as a graduate student for one semester. So, but for this semester, I used a private loan, but I will be using financial aid for my future semesters. And that's one of the things that was recommended to me was to take the extra money that financial aid gives you and pay off some of those loans. So that's what I will be doing is like the private loan that I took this semester. Once I receive financial aid for either the summer of or the fall, the extra money that is given, pay off the private loans, and then use that as well to like continue to pay your loans. But that's how I financed my first semester as a graduate student.
Thank you so much for sharing. So earlier we kind of touched upon how to balance the workload of school with your personal life and your professional life. So how do you guys stay organized with your, how do you organize your schoolwork, and the workload of school itself?
and jump in. Salem State uses the lovely platform of Canvas to kind of go through all of our assignments. And the best feature on Canvas is the calendar feature. I love this. It stacks. The way that the view is it will stack all the assignments that are due on a specific day. And it will tell you exactly what time they're due and put that in a little stacked order in the square of a calendar day, which is very helpful. I used to be somebody who used Google Calendar, but I found that the notifications just got mixed in with everything. So I am still a physical planner person. And I find that that is just the best way for me to organize things. I will say I'm somebody who takes a syllabus at the very first day of class and writes down every single due date in that physical calendar, so that I do not miss anything. I'll even sometimes write them 2 or 3 days ahead of time so that I know that I have time to go back and review through things or ask professors to look over things before turning them in, or go to the writing center and ask them to look over things before turning them in. So there's a lot of ways to stay organized. I know there's a lot of apps and things out there, but I still always choose a physical planner and a desk calendar as my best friends for staying organized during school.
Does anyone else use a different organization method? No? Okay. So for some of you here, you may be living nearby Salem, or you may be moving towards the Salem area in order to complete a graduate program with us. So I just want to know, what was your experience finding off-campus housing? Maybe we can start with Delaney, since you moved here from out of state, kind of talk about what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, definitely. So I chose to go for off-campus housing just because I didn't have the best on-campus housing experience in undergrad. So I think that like scarred me or something. Although I will say that everyone that I know that lived in graduate housing here at Salem State, they really enjoyed the convenience. I just personally, I was like, I need to be off campus. I'm not doing that again. But yeah, so I ended up deciding to find somewhere off campus. The biggest recommendation I can do is start looking early. Even though Salem is not necessarily a college town, it is a town with a college in it. So rent and stuff can be really competitive around the summertime when you're looking for the semester to start. So definitely, start looking early. If you're starting in the fall, I would, start casually looking now. It might be a little bit early for August, September now, but there might be a few things that pop up, and you can get a bit of an idea of what things look like now. And you want to catch those things early. You might also consider, if you're having a hard time, using a broker. Those are pretty common up here in the Boston area. That's another option. Um, but yeah, I would definitely say start looking early, look in as many places as you can to find places. It's not just like usually one resource that has off-campus housing opportunities. Also, maybe consider reaching out to, current students, alumni who lived around. They might have suggestions on places to live, people to talk to, and your program coordinator might be able to connect you with some current students if you aren't currently in contact with any.
I can dive into a lot of my peers are also looking for roommates, right? And so a lot of the times they're talking to each other, and or when your Canvas opens for your specific class, it gives you a listing of all the people that you are in class with. And so you're able to message out to your entire class and just say, hey, I'm looking for, offsite housing. Does anybody have a room share available, or know of something? For me, I got lucky. I had friends that owned a place and were able to give me discounted rate on their rent. But that's not always available. So I looked everywhere, and because of the housing market and the rentals, pricing, skyrocketing during the pandemic, and this happened during the pandemic for me. So, but it's not easy. I would definitely say room shares are, if my apartment doesn't work out for the remainder of my grad program, I will definitely be likely living with somebody else. So.
Thank you for sharing. One last question before we move on to those who have their hand raised and any questions from the chat, is do you guys have any advice for future Vikings? Elaine, do you want to start us off?
So I would say take advantage of everything that is offered to you here at Salem State. There's a lot that goes on, whether it's an event, whether it's a club, an organization, whether it's resources, whether it's the career services, anything like that. Take advantage of everything. I think a lot of times students don't realize that there's things going on that could be very beneficial. And they don't do like the work to find those kind of events that are taking on campus. I would say that that is the biggest piece advice that I would give to future Vikings. I'll use my undergrad experience because I'm just in my first semester as a grad student, but my undergrad experience was very enriched by the fact that I did seek out those events. I did seek out those resources, that information. I spoke to different faculty members, different staff, and I got to have a very rewarding or undergrad experience due to that. So I would say just get involved and speak to your faculty members, the staff that you interact with, and because that could be how you can find different career jobs after you graduate. That could be how you network. That could be how you are offered opportunities that you never might have thought of before, because just having that conversation with that faculty member, they may think of you when something pops up of like, oh, this would be a great opportunity for this student. And so that's one of the biggest advice I would say.
I would say go at your own pace. I think a lot of the time, grad school is seen as something that you have to kind of go through very quickly because you're an adult and you're supposed to have things figured out. And it doesn't always work that way for everybody. And take the amount of courses that you feel is appropriate to you, and just take everything in stride. It's a different course than undergrad, and I think finding community within your graduate class is also extremely important. That cohort that is going to get you through and see you through to the end, and speaking with your faculty advisors and professors, building that sense of community. Like Lane said, it offers a lot of opportunities that you might not have even known were there. So just keeping those lines of communication open, and taking the time that you need is my advice.
I can add on to that too. I'd say for me, I started out with 5 classes at a time. And the first semester, I'll put it this way, I use a mouth guard when I sleep because I grind my teeth from the stress. I don't want to scare people here, but that's just what happens. And I split my first one within like 3 months because the pressure was so heavy. I talked to my advisor about it, and she told me that, and I guess not, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this, but you can defer up to 9 credits to your semester. If you're a full-time student, you can defer up to 9 credits to the summer after the graduation date and still graduate or at least walk with your peers. Your graduation date would actually be August, but can still walk. I deferred one of my classes in my spring semester, which I'm currently in, and then my next semesters are actually only 4 classes. Yeah, because the internship hours have increased. I've also had to reduce my work hours to accommodate. I've had to reduce a lot of stuff, but I have peers that have deferred 9 credits total over the next semesters and will have those 9 credits or 3 classes to do their final summer. And so I also have peers that have moved from full-time to part-time because it was too much. So you have to listen to your body and your mind of like, what can I handle here? What can I manage? I definitely agree with that.
Does anyone have any additional advice they want to give before we move on to questions from those attending today? Okay. So George, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon from Ghana here.
Hello.
My name is George. I hope you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is George Efisa. I put in my application for consideration to read the MS Accounting, and I was asked to submit my transcripts by through my how do you call it, university. Yeah. So I send them the details. That is my application number and everything. So they sent the transcript to your end, and later they asked me to do evaluation. But as it stands now, the evaluation hasn't been done. I want to find out if I could still be considered without doing the evaluation. And then maybe probably when admission has been considered and everything, I'll do the evaluation afterwards. Yeah, I just want to.
Thank you for your question, George. So unfortunately, we are not able to review applications that require transcript evaluation without first receiving that transcript evaluation. So I'd recommend really taking a look at the 5 agencies we accept evaluations from and seeing which ones make the most sense both financially and time-wise for your application. I'm not sure which semester you're applying for, if it's summer or fall, but we can always move your application forward a few semesters, I believe up to 3 in total, if you need additional time to have that evaluation completed. I hope that
Okay,
answered
thank you.
your question fully.
Yeah, yes, please. Yes, please.
Mhm.
It's answered. I applied for fall though, but as you still need the evaluation to be done, then maybe I will have to consider summer or something or spring.
Yep, so for fall, you do have until mid to late July to get your evaluation to us. But if you aren't able to get your evaluation to us by that time, we can certainly push your application forward a semester or 2.
Okay, please, may I know when application is closing for fall?
Yes, let me grab the exact date for you. Give me one moment. So the fall application deadline for students who are residing abroad is July 5th, 2024. And then
Okay,
for those of you who are here who are also applying for fall, the deadline for students who are not residing abroad, so those who are currently living within the United States, is July 26th.
okay, okay,
Mhm.
okay. All right, that's fine. That's great. Thank you so much.
Of course. I know my colleague Anna has been keeping track of some of the questions we've been getting in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to her.
Perfect. Thanks, June. So I see that Jeremy is answering a lot of the MSW questions in the chat. But I did get a direct question. And the question is, I'm interested in hearing about students in graduate programs that also have to work. I know we touched upon this earlier, but if anyone wants to, if any one of our students want to add to it or have any other advice for like graduate students or graduate programs, the grad students have to work.
So I guess just to clarify, you want to hear what it's like when you have to work a full-time job and also attending grad school?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
Um,
my camera's broken, but that's what I mean. Like there is
okay.
no room to like lessen your hours. It's like you kind
Okay.
of have to work.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else wants to go first. If not, I'm happy to go first. Um, Anybody else? No? Okay. So I do work full time and I'm also a graduate student. And I think the majority of us in this student panel do work full time as well. But it's really just finding the balance. It's a lot of the things that we mentioned earlier, like taking a glance at what your syllabus looks like, when your heaviest assignments are due, and like structuring your time, the time that you do have available to be able to. So let's say you have a research project that you know is going to take you a while, structuring time prior to it being due to work on pieces of it, right? Because you know that you do have limited time because you work full time. And for some of you that may be commuting, for instance, like when I do have to go into the office and I commute, it's about an hour, hour and a half for me to get home. So that's an extra chunk of time that is taken away from me. So I know on weeks that I'm going to be in the office multiple times, I know to get some of the work done that I need to get done prior to that. So it's just really about a balance and structuring your available time to meet the needs of your graduate program as well. So it's really how you organize yourself, right? If you know that you're someone who tends to leave everything for last minute, you know that you have to kind of not do that, right? And plan it so that you start working on things little by little uh, to ensure that you get your assignments done on time. And then there was one piece, there was something else that I wanted to mention and I'm blanking on it. So I'll let someone else speak and wait for it to come back to me.
I would say my biggest piece of advice in addition to that is to um, plan in an off switch. So with that planning of time and chunks of time that you're going to be working on stuff, I am somebody that when I sit down and I start to work on stuff can very easily go over that amount of time or get distracted and come back to it half an hour later and say, okay, I'll just work half an hour further into the evening. My brain doesn't know how to write sentences after 10 p.m. So my off switch is at 10 p.m. and I also need to account for that. In addition to the planning ahead for chunks of time, I need to know when that chunk of time is going to end for my work day too.
I do remember what I was gonna say, so I'll just quickly say it. So the other thing is we know that like when you're working full time and also going to school full time, it's gonna be taxing on you, right? So planning out those reward like sessions for yourself of like, okay, if I know that these next 2 weeks I'm gonna be working a lot and doing homework a lot, get through it, and then this weekend completely off. Like Becky Joe said, that shut off of like, all right, this weekend I'm taking to myself. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to go grab brunch. I'm going to do those things, but making it almost into like a reward token system of like, I got work done, I got homework done, I'm taxed. I can't read a sentence right now. I'm gonna reward myself. Even if it's just something as small as like, I'm gonna go for ice cream, or I'm gonna go grab a beer this Friday, or just something as small. Just make sure you implement those into your balance as well.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Thank you guys. So I see Delaney answered the graduate tuition question. We also got another question on when graduate assistantship decisions start. Delaney, do you want to kind of touch on this?
So the graduate assistantship program is not run directly through our office. It is actually run through the graduate assistantship program is run through our School of Graduate Studies. I'm going to put a link to their email address in the chat to reach out to them about when decisions can come out. Typically, they are usually offered sometime starting in May, moving into the summer. Sometimes they can be offered all the way through the beginning of the academic year if you are a later admit or depending on later programs. But I would reach out to them directly as the programs are not, the program is not run through our office.
Thank you so much, Delaney. Does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free to pop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself as well.
I did see one additional question in the chat asking if there are any clubs that are specific to graduate students. Delaney, Jeremy, Beck, Joe, Elaine, are any of you currently participating in a student organization or club?
I'm not I'm signed up for there's a couple psychology honor level or other types of clubs that I'm a part of, and they're specifically so that I'm able to get scholarships. There's something that I signed up during undergrad, but are definitely available to graduate students because I asked that question specifically because I got in at the end of my senior year. So those some of those clubs are really beneficial just because you can get assistance in terms of paying your way. But there are definitely other clubs I know available, and they're available to both undergrad and grad students, from my understanding.
And I just popped a link in the chat for our student organizations. If you go to that page, it has all of them listed out, the student involvement in operations, as well as those offered through the Center for Justice and Liberation. Those are all the questions we've seen come through on our end so far. If anyone has any additional questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, raise your hand if you want to verbally ask. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending our session today. We will hang around for a few minutes in case anyone does have any additional questions, but we do really appreciate all of you attending the session today.